All right, folks. Welcome. And thank you so much to Anonymous for all those gift subs today. What is going on? Why am I hearing music in the background?
Ooh, Zach. It's not me.
Okay.
I didn't
There we
do
go.
it.
I figured it out. Be good. Professional. Not.
Professional streamers have standards.
Yo, welcome on in, Ghost. So good to see you. Ghost is the founding member of the Fruities stream team that I'm a part of, and the Fruities are celebrating their 1 year anniversary today, their 1 year birthday. Happy birthday, MX Fruity, the lovely little ghost emote that we have here. Super cute. Welcome on in, everyone. We are here for episode 15 of the
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu!
Duke with the gift sub to Leela the Lancer. The gift subs just keep coming.
They keep
Thank you so
coming.
much for all the subs today. And we haven't even really started yet. So my apologies. I guess because of the hype train, the ads were automatically subbed by Twitch. And then I did the 1 minute ad to try to kill the pre-rolls. But then the ads were going to play again the full 3 minutes, so I snoozed them. So we're unfortunately going to get hit with ads yet again in 5 minutes, and there is absolutely nothing I can do about that. So my sincerest apologies. It'd be like
Doing our
that.
best here.
Who's that Pokemon?
Duke
It's
with the gift
Pikachu!
sub to Leatris Kitty.
Fuck!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Duke. You are far too kind. So, with that, let's introduce ourselves. So my name is Tai I am a extremely burnt out PhD student. On the side, I do content creation. I play a lot of Pokemon. I play some Zelda, other random Nintendo content, and the occasional round of Halo. And then, of course, the host of the ASPEC podcast series, which was I was inspired on a number of fronts. So last summer, I participated in a really fantastic raid train, the Ace and Arrow raid train, which was the most fun I have ever had in a raid train. It was also my first ever raid train. It was such an amazing time. Also, I co-facilitate a support group for Ace and Arrow folks here locally. And these have kind of been the two main inspirations for this podcast, because I saw that, there's not enough discussion about asexuality and aromanticism, generally speaking, on Twitch. And there's a lot of misconceptions about what asexuality and aromanticism really are. And so I wanted to create a space where we could all come together, chat about asexuality, aromanticism, and particularly the aspects of intersectionality, and really highlight the fact that Ace and Arrow folks are not a monolith. There's a whole beautiful, diverse set of experiences that can be encompassed underneath the Ace and Arrow umbrellas. And so that's kind of the podcast, a little bit about me. I'd like to turn it over to Peach to introduce herself and what do you do, what's your channel about, all that sort of stuff.
Hi, I'm Peach. I use she, her pronouns. Thank you. A little about me as a person. I wasn't paying close enough attention to what you were saying because I got cold suddenly and then I couldn't find the blanket that I was sitting on.
No
So,
worries.
yeah, but I wrote notes in the doc you sent, and that is what's in front of me. So, like,
Perfect.
I feel so prepared and smart, but also I drank a little bit of dumb juice because I couldn't find the blanket I was sitting on. It's fine. So, a little bit about me. I'm partnered, both in stream and in
Heck yeah.
life. I usually stream with my stream partner Cyro, who claimed one of those subs. He's in chat somewhere. I consider myself ace flux, which we'll talk about later, and pan romantic. And I used to think that I was like heteroflexible was a term that I claimed for a little bit, and like just straight up asexual was a term that I claimed for a little bit. But I think the ace flux, the flux part is like between ace and demi kind of in there, which we'll also talk about later. And then for me, about my stream side, I'm a variety streamer, but I'm also obsessed with Marvel Rivals. So you'll find me 4 nights a week creating Rivals content with my partner, Cyro / Tony / Stony, if you want to say both of them at the same time. We also do some DBD. We used to play a lot of Hunt. We play Fall Guys when we're working on the Battle Pass, but we finish it so quickly doing dailies that we don't do it very much. And I also have started creating ASMR, which I don't do very often, and I create some spicy content on the side. And I also I have a crochet shop where I make cute stuff like this and this very interesting hammerhead shark that was the only other thing within reach. So
He's
don't
super
judge
cute.
him. He's trying.
Absolutely.
I should have been holding the spooter. The spooter's cuter. The spooter.
My apologies, folks. There is an ad break right now. I can't stop it.
We can talk about other stuff.
Yeah, I won't go into the main meat of the discussion at this point until we get through the ad break in the next minute and a half. So my sincerest apologies. The ad break got, as I said, canceled by Twitch, and it threw everything off, because usually what I try to do is run my starting soon screen right.
It's my fault. I started the train. I will take this blame.
No, it's all good. Usually what I try to do is run the starting soon screen until the ad plays, and then we get a full 60 minutes of no ads as a result.
Well. Well, now we get, ad breaks to be silly, and
ad breaks.
Everybody is like, subbed in chat anyways, right?
Yeah, we definitely got a lot of subs in the last few minutes. I will respond to what Duke mentioned here. Heck yeah, love to see the other gray aces. I identify somewhere under the gray ace umbrella myself. And yeah, it is difficult to try to understand what it's like for allosexual folks, and I can imagine the inverse, obviously. And for me, being somewhere under the gray umbrella, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, it was so hard to come to this realization that I fall under the ace umbrella, and I identify as ace, because of the fact that there's that little bit of grayness that just complicates the picture a little bit.
It's the what if in your head.
Exactly. There's so much imposter syndrome as a result.
And then if you are divergent in other ways, like
Oh, yes.
neurodivergence.
Yes.
Because this is like, sexuality divergence, I suppose. If we just kind of wanted to use that as a
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
divergence as a term. Like we could. I mean, they made a video about it. Not a video. They made a movie about it. They wrote a book about it. Divergent is about being different. And it doesn't have to be bad or wrong in any way. You're just different.
Absolutely.
And that can be really good too.
Yeah, and I think, for me, neurodivergence is a real big part of both,
Yes.
my Ace
Same.
and Arrow.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu!
Well, actually,
It's
I was just thinking, I should have
Fuck!
brought this up before we started. If we end up breezing through these topics because you and I are just so all over the place and we ended up talking about all the topics at the same time, which is going to be wonderful chaos. We could also talk about that. Add that on the bottom.
Absolutely. We can definitely
That'd be a
talk
great
about
idea.
that. Absolutely.
Because we are very, both of us are very on the divergent side, I'd say.
Yes.
And in the gray as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like we struggle in a lot of the same areas.
Absolutely.
So it'd be a great topic.
Totally. And I know I talked about this a little bit with actually Caber, who just came in the chat here. And thank you again to Duke to gifting a sub to Caber, who
Everybody
appeared
in chat's getting
the third episode of the ASPEC podcast series, where we talked a lot about, aromanticism, and Caber had some really awesome insights in that episode.
Caber and I played some Don't Starve together recently.
Yeah,
as well.
I remember
Had a
that.
great
I tried to do a double raid, and we accidentally raided into
Oh,
Busby,
right.
who was not online.
Been there, done that. Because
good
Tony and I
times.
do a lot of double raids because we're always streaming together. So every
Yeah.
end of stream, we do that, and we have raided. One person raids one channel and one person raids the other channel, and while we
Exactly. That's what
probably have
happened.
way too much anxiety to accidentally raid somebody that's offline, I can imagine it happening to
Yeah.
us.
It was
Especially
good
if we were
times.
raiding somebody that we knew well and didn't open their
Yeah.
channel beforehand, and then accidentally they weren't live.
That's exactly
Oops.
what happened. That's
Been there.
exactly what happened.
Or you spell it wrong, that's also happened.
Done that too. Definitely done that. Done all
so
of the
many
above.
times.
So I think, one of the things that I'd like to kind of start us off with here is talking a little bit about, the split attraction model, and, why it's useful to, discussing about asexuality and about aromanticism. And I'll start with a little bit of history around kind of where it developed and some of the early attempts to describe, the idea that, romantic and sexual attraction are different things. And so I think one of the first times this sort of notion that romance and sexual attraction could potentially be different concepts came up in the late 1800s with Karl Heinrich Ehrlich, who developed a very complex system of classification around, at the time, describing bisexuality. But in doing so, Ehrlich talks about different kinds of feelings that could be separated into tender feelings and passionate feelings. And so we can kind of think about these tender feelings as something that's approximating romantic feelings. And you can probably guess that passionate feelings are the ones that are more closely related to sexual attraction, but doesn't come out and explicitly say that. And I think it was just too complex of a system to really catch on. But to my knowledge, that's kind of one of the first times that it was acknowledged that tender that romantic and sexual attraction could potentially be completely different aspects. And so we can jump ahead now to 1979. with Dorothy Tenov and her book, Love and Limerence, The Experience of Being in Love. And in this book, Tenov describes the concept of limerence as being somewhat like a crush or an infatuation with someone. And though Tenov doesn't, explicitly or acknowledges that limerence was not explicitly purely romantic, and there may have been some aspects of, sexual attraction in there, the main thing that Tenov notes is that sex was not the primary focus of the concept of limerence. And so limerence in this aspect could kind of be a approximation to the romantic attraction that we think about in the most, modern aspect of the SAM, or the split attraction model. But it really wasn't until the early 2000s that we come to see the split attraction model in the form that we typically recognize it today. And so, not surprisingly, it kind of develops through the Haven for the Human Amoeba, which was the precursor to AVEN, the Asexual Visibility and Education Network. And in 2005, AVEN describes the split attraction model as, acknowledging that sexual and romantic attraction are two completely different concepts. One can be romantically attracted to somebody and not sexually attracted, vice versa. And they are not necessarily the same thing for everybody. But the term split attraction model didn't actually appear until 2015 on, you guessed it, Ace Tumblr.
Very nice.
So that's kind of a brief history of the split attraction model. It is not at all a comprehensive history, but I think it gives you a little bit of an idea of where it came from and kind of where it, evolved. So in the most basic version of the SAM, sexual attraction, as I said, and romantic attraction are differentiated. And this concept is really helpful for many folks in the ASPEC community, not surprisingly. But it has since been expanded to acknowledge other types of attraction, including but not limited to sensual attraction, the desire to interact with others in a tactile but non-sexual way. You can think of this potentially as cuddling or hugging. Aesthetic attraction, the appreciation of the appearance of someone, completely disconnected from, any feelings of romance or sexual attraction.
Like a pretty actress or actor or
Exactly.
something.
Acknowledging, the beauty in someone.
Mm-hmm.
Emotional attraction, the desire to want to get to know someone a little bit better. Platonic attraction, the desire to be friends with someone. And then a concept that I talk about a lot and, took me a while to understand initially, altruist attraction. And this often comes up in
How do
the
you spell that?
context.
What?
ALT.
never-
I will type it in chat.
I haven't heard this one.
ALTEROUS. Altruist attraction. And so this often comes up in the context of queer platonic partnerships. And it describes a form of attraction that's neither purely platonic nor purely romantic in nature. It's kind of this nebulous area that may be described as somewhere in between, but for other folks, it may be something completely different. And often it's described in the context of queer platonic partnerships. So that's that's a relationship that is neither purely platonic nor romantic in nature. And so this is kind of where that evolves from. And Arrow Dragon mentioned about 65% of their relationships have been, fall under altruist or altruist sensual. And, this is something that I've thought about for a long time now. is that maybe in the future I'd like to be in some sort of queer platonic partnership. I have to me, it would be kind of nice to have somebody around, to have a little bit more emotional connection with someone, but I don't want to be in a romantic relationship. That's not something I'm looking for. So this idea of a queer platonic partnership is something I've kind of thought about for a while. It's not at all a priority of mine, but if it happens, it'd be kind of nice in the future, but it's not really a main priority, if that makes sense for me.
I think that a lot of my friendships are these kinds of
Who's
relationships.
that Pokemon?
It's Pikachu!
It's
The
Clefairy!
Fuck!
However you say it. Alterous attraction sorts of relationships.
Absolutely.
Like one of my roommates, we were both queer as hell. And I would say that I'm not aro, so like this may not happen for people that consider themselves aro, but I fell in love with them pretty much. But it wasn't purely romantic, and it wasn't purely platonic, and it wasn't really sexual at all, because personally I'm not interested in having sexual relations with other people that have the same parts as me. I had to
Mhm.
think about how to say that. That was tough. That was a tough one. But and so I never wanted to do whatever might be considered sex between two women with them, but I wanted to kiss their face off because I liked kissing.
Absolutely.
In my 20s, at least I did.
Mhm.
Now, that's kind of changed, and I feel like that's probably connected to my neurodiversity, that I no longer want to kiss everybody with a cute face. Which is an interesting thought to have. I haven't had that thought before. We're exploring
Completely.
interesting places today.
Completely valid. But what you described definitely could very much fall under what many people describe as alterous attraction. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Arrow Dragon
Hey
mentioned
Google, stop. Hey Google,
I-
stop. Sorry. It was about to start talking about my location live on stream because it does
No.
it every day at noon. So I just needed to
Yeah.
tell the the Gertrude.
Yeah.
We don't call
need
it
to
the G
dox
word.
yourself.
Yes. You can't use the G word out loud.
No.
The GOOGLE word, you know.
No.
So
No.
call her Gertrude. Anyways, continue. I don't know where we are.
So I
got
was just
totally lost.
responding to what Arrow Dragon was saying, and they mentioned that they didn't know they were Arrow until they were 40. They were only into, what they would consider two traditional romantic relationships. Completely feel this one. I attempted to be in what was traditionally described as a romantic relationship, and for me, very much a struggle. Would not recommend. Not for me.
Yep.
And
Been there,
that's
done that.
when it sort of clicked. I might be Aerospec.
I found out in 2013. Or no, I know where I was. So I have a specific memory of when I heard the word asexual. And it was 2013. I remember it was an event that only ever happened once. So I know it happened in 2013. So I know exactly when I heard it for the first time. And I started using it as a band-aid because I felt broken. And I feel like that feeling is shared.
It is such a common, unfortunately, experience in the aspec community. Falling under, all aspects. Arrow, ace.
And there were allosexuals telling me that I was broken, that I was wrong. Now, is that their right?
What
No,
gives them the right to
that's
do that?
not their right.
No.
Is it my fault for believing them? No, but that's something else with my neurodiversity. You know, the autism is very, very naive.
I think it also goes far beyond that. You know, we've got
Oh,
this.
absolutely.
We've got this notion of compulsory sexuality all across the board in all aspects
Oh my
of
God.
society. And so if you're constantly told that you have to respond to sex, that you want sex, and you don't, it's a very, unfortunately, easy assumption to make that, you know, there might be something wrong, unfortunately. And that's not the case. But if we're told from the time we're little kids that we have to desire to be in a romantic sexual relationship, and if you don't want that, then, well, what are you? That easily, you know,
Broken
results
is
in
what I
feeling
thought.
broken, unfortunately.
For a long time, yeah. And so while I was still feeling broken, I latched on to that term, asexual. And when I was being pressured, as happens when you're drinking at parties in your 20s, if you have those kinds of situations that you put yourself in for whatever reasons, and I was using it as a band-aid. Like, I'm asexual when someone was trying to pressure me, and it didn't actually work because they didn't understand
No.
what I meant.
No.
And that feels bad, but I'm past it. And that's great.
Absolutely. Arrow Dragon mentioned one of their graduate students
Right? I know,
introduced them to Arrow, and all the bells and whistles and light bulbs went off. That is such
Yep.
a mood. When I
But
finally
like, I
figured it out.
also had autism, so it's like and this isn't going to resonate as much with people who aren't late diagnosed like I am, or not even diagnosed yet as I am. God, the imposter syndrome is fighting me so hard right now. But like, it's like I heard it and then I took so much time to process it. Years and years and years, and I'm still unlearning bullshit that was said to me because of the time it takes to process and how big this shit is. So big to unlearn how to, you know, all of the things that media has told us how we're so. God, I wrote down compulsory sexuality at the bottom of my version of our chat discussion Google Doc that I made. So
it is such an important term to talk about. And I'll mention a book that I think is really interesting and a really important one for folks to read. Refusing Compulsory Sexuality by Sharonda J. Brown really looks at intersectionality within Black asexual communities and really goes into detail about all the problematic issues with compulsory sexuality and how weaponized it is. Just how much of a weapon it can be. I will type that in the chat. Sharonda.
I got it. I just grabbed it.
J. Brown using compulsory.
I got a link. You want it?
Yeah. I don't think you'll be able to post it.
I can DM it to you.
But yeah, I'll post a link.
I just found it on Penguin Random House is the first link that came out.
Perfect.
But I could give you a Goodreads link. That's a good one. I like Goodreads. There. Yeah. That's better. It's also shorter. And then you could read people's reviews about it and stuff.
Absolutely.
Take that with a grain of salt. The reviews I see 2 1-star reviews, so, you know, look at the bad reviews with a grain of salt, I say.
Absolutely. Welcome on in, Spartan Winter, and thank you so much to the gift sub.
It's Clefairy!
Anonymous.
Mm-hmm. We know. But it's fine. You can remain anonymous. Yeah, I'm unlearning I'm unmasking and learning how to I can't words, but what Caber said.
Yeah, absolutely.
What Caber said. They said it better than I did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I also really, like what Caber mentioned, a lot of people unfortunately take it as a challenge to fix you.
Yes.
And that is so
Yes.
fucked up.
Yes. To change you. What's the song? The Evanescence song? You can't fix me, I'm not broken.
Exactly.
I can't remember what song it's from. Is it from My Immortal? It might be. But it's a lyric that is so important.
Absolutely.
Who's that
You can't
Pokemon?
fix
It's
me.
Pikachu!
I'm not broken.
It's
And
Clefairy!
we're not
Fuck!
broken. Maybe we have things we're working on, but we're not broken.
Exactly. So true. Thank you again to Hugster Duke for a yet
Oh my
another
gosh,
gift sub.
Duke.
You have sub-bombed the absolute bejesus out of this stream. Thank you so much. Spartan Winter said it's from the song Hello by Evanescence.
Was it Hello? I couldn't remember. All the songs kind of blend. Sorry. I had to put some hype in chat. There we go.
Heck yes. Heck yeah. So we've talked a lot about so many things already. One of the things I'd like to...
Chris said this was going to happen.
Absolutely. That's perfectly okay. That's what, these discussions are for, One of the things I'd just like to quickly ask is, when did you first come to learn about the split attraction model? And how has it influenced your understanding of attraction and your informed thinking on relationships?
Well, I first came to learn about the split attraction model through you.
That's valid as hell.
And I learned about... So I was familiar with sensuality.
Mm-hmm.
Like sensual attraction. I was familiar with platonic attraction because I experienced these. Aesthetic attraction, I've never heard of that. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I find people aesthetically attractive, and I've said that before, but the thought of aesthetic attraction being its own thing was not something that I thought about until I saw it in writing in front of me. Same with emotional attraction. Altruist attraction, I wrote it in my copy because it wasn't there.
Yeah, that's something I added this morning. My apologies.
Absolutely valid. And it's fine because I've made some updates, and all my updates are green, so I can easily talk about them. But
Absolutely.
that's what, like, I didn't fully explore it today.
Hey,
Let's say
that's
today.
Perfectly okay.
Today. Because I don't think I was fully here, or I don't think I was paying full attention to the stream when we were previously talking about it. So I had seen it in your in the different podcast episodes. You'd mentioned it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I hadn't really researched it, and I still haven't really, honestly, because I feel like I learn things better when I experience them. I learn by doing it and trying and failing and, trying again.
Absolutely.
And hopefully your failures are not crazy failures. They're just like, oopsies.
So valid.
Which
So
is
valid.
totally fine. And, I keep interrupting you. Anyways.
No. I want to hear from you. This podcast isn't about
I'm
me.
not saying anything. I'm just like so I'm trying to keep that to a minimum. But something else I wanted to mention here was I don't know what the exact number is because I do not speak French, but French has like 8, 12, ridiculous number, larger than 1 number for like love
Mhm.
because there are so many different kinds of love
Yeah,
and attraction.
absolutely. And it's
There's so
not
many
just
phrases and like they, the French are stereotyped as like the people that are so in tune with their romance side with their love and they have so many words for it. I'm jealous. Why aren't there more in English?
and it's
We have
not just
instead
French.
we're doing this.
Yeah. We have one word,
You're
love.
right. It's not just French because off the top of my head, in Spanish,
Yeah.
there's like quiero, which is like yo quiero, I or yo te quiero, like I like you, or te quiero, like I really like you,
Mhm.
And then there's te amo, I love you, or there's te amo, which
Mhm.
is I really love you, same
Mhm.
words. You could do that in English. I love you. I love you. You know.
But it doesn't have the same
Nope.
depth
It
as the romance languages.
it definitely doesn't. And the romance languages aren't even named because they're about romance. They're named
No.
because they're from Rome.
Mhm.
And
They
so
all
many
have,
people don't know that.
yeah, they all, are kind of based on Latin. And so
They
that's
are,
where
yeah.
that comes from.
So, fun little side topic that I wanted to add.
Absolutely. I think for many folks within the Ace and Arrow communities, they have at least some degree of an implicit understanding of Sam, but they may not necessarily know it by name. So the
Right.
idea that,
It's just known
yeah,
because I'm trying to think of a specific example
It's
in
Pikachu!
media, but I don't watch a whole lot of foreign film. There has to be a movie about 2 straight women living in an alterous, relationship. Or men, but I feel like it'd be more likely to see a movie about 2 women. That's
mhm.
well, we don't have to dig into that. That's something else entirely. But I'm curious on that topic. Oh my gosh, Duke.
Duke going ham, up to 20 subs now
Wow.
altogether. Not today,
Not
but
just
all
today.
of the
Oh,
subs that I currently have are thanks to Anonymous and to Duke, which is just wild to think about.
golf claps for Duke.
And to Anonymous as well.
And Anonymous. Anonymous. Don't forget Anonymous. Anonymous.
So we actually had a really interesting discussion last episode with the producer and director of a short film called A Rom-Com, which looks at, a platonic meet cute that takes place in Iceland. And that was a fantastic discussion. We
Oh.
really got into many of the issues about the disgusting lack of representation when it comes to asexuality and aromanticism in media. And these ideas of, the fact that not all attraction is sexual or romantic. There are other kinds of relationships.
What was
And
the
the
name of
media
that
doesn't
movie you
allow
said?
for that.
Sorry. I wanted to look up that movie.
I'll pop it in the chat.
A
rom-com. There you go.
rom.
Hopefully coming out unintended during Pride Month.
Hey.
Hey.
Love
Yo,
it.
welcome on in, Princess Allie's kingdom. How are you doing, Allie? Good to see you.
Welcome. I get nothing when I search for a rom-com movie.
Really? Let me see.
Yeah. Lovely.
Here you
Thank
go.
you,
Here's
Google.
the link tree.
Oh, awesome.
There you go.
Yay. Fun. I'm so excited. I want to see it. I hope there's a way to see it.
Yeah, they're
Online.
gonna put it out on YouTube hopefully.
Oh, hell yeah.
Sometime during Pride Month. They haven't
Exciting.
figured out an exact release date, but it'll be sometime during Pride Month.
Awesome. Well, that
Exciting
should be
for
real
sure.
fun. Maybe we should plan like a
It's
group watch
Pikachu!
or something.
Fuck!
Hey, if there's a premiere, I'm totally down to like host it in the ASPEC podcast
Oh yeah,
Discord.
what a good
For
idea.
sure.
I am so bad at not talking through movies. So it either has to be everybody's muted or everybody's talking so they don't hate me.
So valid. Thank you for the gift sub to GK Fire Dev Anonymous.
Anonymous. I love it. So much Jason Arrow sub love today.
Absolutely. Way too much.
Hell yeah. Oh, that's a cute Pika. Cute. Okay. So distractible. You gotta keep me on topic. You're
No
good at it
worries.
though.
So the gray
You-
umbrella.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the fact that, you know, there's a lot of misunderstanding about what asexuality and what aromanticism are. And so starting with asexuality, I think because it's a slightly better known of the two, the understanding of asexuality, if at all, is limited to the idea of an individual who experiences absolutely no sexual attraction whatsoever and is sex repulsed. And the reality
Right.
is that asexuality encompasses a much broader range of experiences than this. And then, you know, on the other side, you know, aromanticism, the idea, if anybody knows at all what aro is, and that you're not just this cold, cruel individual that's, you know, antisocial and a criminal, is that, you know, you
Sociopath? You can say it.
Yeah, sociopath, unfortunately. There are a lot of people that still believe that, and it is so incredibly upsetting and frustrating.
It's really, really hurtful, and God, I had a good word for it, and it's gone. Never mind. It's hurtful. So hurtful.
Mm-hmm. I had somebody in my freaking PhD program when I mentioned one time that I'm aro said, "Are you frigid? Are you like antisocial?" I'm like, "What in the absolute fuck are you talking about?" Ugh.
I have feelings about that for you. Oh my god. What they need some learning.
They really do.
They
And
really need
a
some
lot
learning.
of society needs to
Oh
come
yeah.
to learn, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. All of the US voters, they know who they are. All of them need some learning.
So demi identity theoretically could be the most straightforward to talk about. However, there's also so many misunderstandings, misconceptions, and it is weaponized as a term, unfortunately.
Yes.
So you would think that
it was
demi
weaponized
is,
against me.
Yeah, unfortunately. It's disgusting how many times people weaponize it and dismiss it as an identity.
Very true. Like I consider myself like part demi and part ace, but I just use the term ace flux because it's less words and easier. And honestly, you don't need to tell someone all of your sexual habits
No.
with one word.
No.
So it's kind of like a way to stay mysterious.
Oh yeah, weaponized,
As I love.
absolutely. So basically,
Yes.
the idea that, you know, demi is this new term, you know, it's this term that was invented as to be, you know, to be vogue, to be hip, to be cool, and that it's not a real
To be cool.
identity. It's disgusting.
It really, really is.
So basically, demi erasure is so common.
Yes, queer is also a way to remain mysterious. I
Mhm.
also, I either, so like I refer to myself as ace flux when I'm talking about sexuality, but when I'm just talking about my, I don't have a better way to categorize this other than as my LGBT label, which is also ace flux, but like on my you know, my gay level, how gay am I just say, you know, I'm queer as hell or I'm gay as hell. Now I'm in a straight passing relationship.
Yeah.
So, and like we haven't been attacked like that, but you know, I've seen it happen because my friends have been attacked for being in a straight passing relationship and not being straight. They're like, well, how can you be bisexual? You've been married to that guy for many years, whatever. So yeah, weaponized. Yeah, I consider myself pan and ace as well. Pan romantic,
Absolutely.
asexual. So it's like I have different terms
Mhm.
for my romanticism and for my asexuality. Now, are these the only categories that we're you know, using these micro labels in? Are there more categories, or is it just a scenario? I don't know. My brain's going weird places now.
So I think theoretically, you know, the idea that, you know, one's romantic attraction, one's sexual attraction can theoretically be applied to any sort of, you know, relationship for anybody theoretically. It's most commonly used in the ace and arrow communities, but you know, one of the things that, you know, Ehrlich mentions is this idea that, you know, for folks in the bi community, some folks may have had romantic feelings towards a certain sex and a sexual attraction to a different sex. And so,
Right.
you know, I think Ehrlich kind of hints at this, you know, all the way back in the 1800s, even that this idea of, you know, one's sexual and romantic orientations being different, you know, in the context of, you know, bisexuality and, you know, nothing to do with asexuality and aromanticism.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, I definitely use a bunch of different labels, and I feel like they're always changing too.
That's so
As
valid.
I learn more, like I used to consider myself biromantic because I wasn't sure if I would be attracted to someone that maybe I considered as not male or female. Like I was attracted to males or masks, and I was attracted to femmes. And I wasn't sure if I could be attracted to a either someone that was either both or neither. And I answered that question. So I updated my the way I like to label myself to pan, because the answer is yes, that I was attracted to, or I had to find somebody that I had some sort of attraction to that that was NB or trans or some way, some divergent from the two genders, you know. And I became I found attraction to. That feels weird. I don't know. I can't even remember if it was in IRL or like in the media or something. But I did answer that question myself.
One's sexuality is constantly changing. You know, our understanding of our sexuality changes all the time as we come to, you know, learn more information, learn more about ourselves. It's so valid.
Exactly.
I lived for 30 years thinking I was some sort of uninterested flavor of hetero, and then realized,
Oh
nah, you know
my.
what? I'm actually, you know, aro aspec.
That yeah. I still like as all gosh, I'm struggling with the words today. Form sentence, then say sentence. Okay. I struggle with so much of my my mental health labels, like figuring out what I am diagnosed with and how that affects me. And then I also have my, you know, sexuality on the other side, which is all affected by it. So I'm just I feel like I'm in this constantly changing uh place. Like maybe one day, and you know, this is another reason why I use Ace Flux as well. Is like maybe one day I'm feeling really sexual, and one day I'm not. Like I feel like I could use all of these labels at some point. Like we haven't gotten into the micro labels under the gray umbrella yet, but it is soon. When I was looking through all of these beforehand, I haven't heard of half of them. But I resonate with some of them. But I resonate with them like in a way that I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I resonate with this. More research and learning in myself is required.
Absolutely. And I would feel similarly in that, you know, there's aspects of some of these that I can relate to, but none of them really perfectly fit, you know, who I am. And so I prefer to just say, you know, ace spec to, you know, say I'm somewhere under the gray umbrella. I don't know where. I don't frankly really care, but you know,
Be
I'm
an
definitely
enigma.
ace spec of sorts.
Yeah, and you know, some people feel the need to find all of these labels and define themselves, and I definitely feel like I'm one of those people. While I am happy living under like the Ace Flux mystery, if you will, and being mysterious with that and just saying, oh, I'm gay as hell, but like I also feel the need to know within myself, like I need to, or I want to understand these labels so that I know if they do apply to me or not. So I love that we're talking about.
Absolutely. And Duke asked, you know, about one of the labels. So gray ace is rare experiences of sexual attraction. Yeah, so there's, you know, a couple of different sort of you know, I would say experiences that fall under the gray ace micro label. And so it's either, you know, infrequent or rare sexual attraction, or some folks that are gray ace experience, you know, very weak sexual attraction, you know, that's very different from, you know, what an allo person would feel. And, you know, the key here is that gray aces don't necessarily need to feel a close emotional bond to experience that limited sexual attraction. And that's one of the things that would differentiate them theoretically from somebody that's demi, where, you know, the strong emotional bond is critical to that feeling of sexual attraction.
And I actually used to for a period of time, I adopted the gray ace label for myself.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I liked about it the most is that this never really caught on, but for a little bit they were calling gray ace just Grace.
Yeah.
And I just love that. And then there's someone else that we played Don't Starve Together was Gaming with Grace, and their name is spelled Grayce.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I felt gray ace in myself when I wasn't in a really close emotional relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So I also consider myself poly. Oh, my cat is coming to visit. Lovely. I considered myself poly for many years, and I feel like that may also change depending on what relationships I'm in as well. And also as I learn about myself and my sexuality, like it's changed in the last 10 years as well. But oh gosh, I lost where I was going. Yeah, I don't consider myself Grace anymore because I do experience more sexual attraction, but it's more demi now because I am in like a partnered I guess monogamous seeming relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Monogamous passing, I suppose, because we don't have other people.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also not like closing any doors. Like I still in monogamous relationships there's sometimes the expectation like, oh, you can't find anybody else attractive. And that's not the case here because we talk about attractive people together.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't date them or
Mm-hmm.
have sex with them or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm very much more demi than I was, but I have experience from my 20s where I was dating 3 guys. One of them had a live-in partner that was their primary. Another one of them was dating other people as well. And then the third one ended up being the first person that I ever called partner. I had never had somebody like that before, given all of those ended in different levels of catastrophe. But that was when I felt the most grace because I was experiencing so little sexual attraction, but I had so much emotional attraction. I think.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I'm not sure. But that's when I was really grace.
Mm-hmm.
Was when I was in that sort of situation. It worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
Given I don't think it would work for me now, but that's also fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a while, I, thought that label was the best to describe me. But again,
Oh, I could explain that.
I could say, at times I felt more ace flux.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
Also, I don't know if that's the perfect definition or micro label for me. I know that somewhere under the gray umbrella, I just don't know where. So,
I feel like sometimes I'm different every day.
Yeah.
So there's no one label that could ever describe me.
Yeah.
So I collect them. And then I throw them into the Ace Flex bag and they're having a little party.
That's a mood.
And that's totally fine. It's great.
That's a mood.
And I'm collecting all of these other ones that we're going to talk about as well. Because I have felt all of them at some point in my life, whether I feel them now or not.
Yeah.
And there are more terms. And I'm fascinated by all of them. I've heard of other ones, and they may not be used anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we're not discussing them. Or maybe they're not.
There are lots of others. I just picked a few here.
Yes. Maybe the ones that I'm thinking are more allo terms.
Yeah.
Because they're how people want to have sex.
Yeah.
but they want to have sex.
Yeah.
But those are fascinating to me because I don't get that. I don't
No.
have that.
No.
The closest I have is Demi.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, let's dive in. Let's do it.
So, one that, one term that.
Oh, wait, actually, I saw Duke say something about aesthetic attraction.
Oh, thanks for catching that. I totally missed it.
Yeah. So, example of my aesthetic attraction, which I'm just gonna redefine as somebody that I am attracted to because I think they're pretty or because I like what they're wearing, maybe. And I'm just like, wow, I'm really attracted to them, but I don't want to have sex with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's just kind of a quick redefinition.
Yeah.
And an example is we're rewatching Glee right now, and there are so many freaking pretty people in there. But
Mhm.
specifically, I'm just gonna bring up the ditzy cheerleader Brittany. She is they bring her across as so dumb, but I went and looked at what she's doing now, and she's the same age as my partner. She's 38 now, which wasn't important, but it was right there at the top when I Googled her. And she looks incredible, and she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. I also feel like the platonic attraction to her. I want to be her best friend. But I don't want to have any sort of sexual relations with her
Mhm.
or anything. But gosh, I'm attracted because she's pretty as shit is the word.
Mhm.
Pretty as shit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a great way of talking about aesthetic attraction. Absolutely.
Using a picture and enamored with, but don't want to buy it or bring it home. I just admire it. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Or like
Such a good
watching
point.
shows and videos and or like people watching, going to watch pretty people if you're a people watcher, or watching media with pretty people in it.
Mhm.
That's all aesthetic attraction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We did it, I think. What do you think, Duke?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it does. It is conflated with sexual attraction. Yep. Oh
It
yeah.
is so commonly confused with it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
And I think for many folks that I've talked to that came to realize they were ace later in life, what they experienced, what they thought was sexual attraction was actually them, having sort of aesthetic attraction to somebody. And at the time they thought, oh, that must be what sexual attraction is.
Mhm.
So it's very commonly misconstrued, for sure.
And on a side note, back to the mental health part, I used to think that feeling nervous was the same as feeling excited in sexual situations.
Mm-hmm. Another common thing I've heard, for sure.
And I didn't realize that was common. But I came to realize this recently because I was thinking about, a time that I had been in a situation where sex may happen from my past.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember feeling very, I don't know what the feeling is because I'm currently redefining what all those feelings are, because there's anxiety, which is anxiety. And then there's, being excited, and there's hyperactivity since I have ADHD, and, yada, yada, yada. I could go on for days. But that nervous feeling was not me excited about having sex, which is why I didn't have sex with him that night. And I'm glad I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't have any regrets for that situation at all. I don't remember most of the surrounding info or like how I got there or anything, but I wasn't uncomfortable with anything other than the I don't want to have sex with this person.
Absolutely.
And I didn't. So like that's great. I forgot what I was talking about. I got lost. But you're welcome, Duke. One of whom resides in my building? Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
People look nice. And it's okay to appreciate them.
Absolutely.
You can have that attraction to them without wanting to sex them up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think now is a great time to cross into the micro label section.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about
excited.
what gray asexuality is, and you know, this idea
Now
of
the rest.
infrequent, or weak sexual attraction. And there's some other labels that we'll talk about, just a few of them to kind of give a brief idea of some of the labels that fall under the gray umbrella. Lithosexual or achiosexual is an
I'm gonna put these in
experience.
chat.
Sorry?
I'm going to put these in chat
Yeah, thank you.
so you can see them.
To describe folks that may experience some sexual attraction, however, they don't want it reciprocated. And the sexual attraction may disappear completely if they come to learn the feelings are reciprocated. And therefore, lithosexuals, achiosexuals are, they may not be compelled to want to seek a sexual relationship as a result.
And this one resonates with me a lot. A lot. I have definitely experienced this.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when maybe I was attracted to somebody and then I learned something about them that I didn't like. Or no. It's not that I learned something I didn't like. It's that I learned that their feelings were a lot bigger than mine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went, Or I learned that it was reciprocated, and then I was like, back up.
Mm-hmm.
And I never thought a sexual relationship when I was having those feelings.
No.
But I did feel that.
Mm-hmm.
We got ads.
Yeah, unfortunately, we got hit with another ad break. I have no word.
All right, we could chill. Is there even any? I don't know if there even is anybody in chat that's not subscribed. There might be.
Unfortunately, folks will miss out on.
Yeah, they will.
There's always the VODs.
Pause.
So
we'll pause.
I will mention that you can always go back to catch the VODs afterwards on the YouTube. I also take the audio and post them to Apple and Spotify podcasts.
Well, you gotta go sub to your Spotify podcast.
So, so there's always, if you ever miss out or want to get caught up on any of the podcast episodes, YouTube, Apple, Spotify are all valid options. If you want to see the video, you got to go to YouTube. Only the audio's on Spotify and Apple podcasts.
Very nice.
One thing I did want to sort of mention, is that have you heard of Being Ace in the UK, the report?
No.
So one of the things that Yasmin Benoit is a absolutely amazing ace activist in the UK, and she helped co-write this report. And one of the things that it acknowledges is that ACE-spec, and particularly ace folks, have some of the highest rates of mental health issues of the entire 2S LGBTQIA plus community.
I get that.
Because there is such a strong misunderstanding, and there's so much erasure of the, the ace identity. And just the isolation that many ace and arrow folks experience as a result. It's not called the invisible orientation for nothing.
Right. And I learned about asexuality, and then I feel like in the LGBT community, ace was getting a lot of negative feedback. Like, oh, if you're ace, you're not you're not LGBT if you're only ace, yada yada. And I was struggling with my labels, with my queerness at the time. And so that was just extra hard. I feel like that was maybe in the mid to late 2010s ish. Not sure.
It is such an unfortunately common experience. The isolation part really, really, really sucks. I think contributes a lot to it. How do you go about finding other ace folks? It's not like people are walking around all the time with ace flags on their back, being like, hey, I'm ace.
I do now.
Yes, I do. I am very open about it, but there's many people that aren't, and I can understand why.
Yeah, like we were talking about this before we went live, that I have a bunch of ace flags, but there was a time before the apartment complex complained that I had a pride flag visible in my window of my apartment. So I didn't put an ace flag there. I just put a straight up, 7-stripe pride flag. Like the basic of the basic gay. Just gays live here. But I didn't put up anything else in a visible place because I didn't want to, invite that sort of hate that may or may not exist. I don't know if it does. It might. One person just has to do or say something that would be not great. So since I think about that, I don't want to do it. Unless it's at Pride. At Pride, I carry my giant ace flag around. I throw it in the air.
Absolutely.
Put it in my pocket, have it fly around in the wind. I don't know. Whatever.
Absolutely. So valid. Hugster Duke mentioned that Shujo is a openly transgender Kaizo streamer. I love myself some Kaizo. That's awesome. I'm definitely going to have to check Shujo out.
Remind me what Kaizo is?
Kaizo is like really, really, really impossibly hard challenges. Usually it started in the context of Mario, where you have all those invisible hitboxes and invisible blocks that knock you out, but also it's expanded to include really, really intense Pokemon challenges where you get jumped by a level 100 Pokemon on the first route and things like that. Right.
Or just playing Dark Souls.
Yeah, that too.
Or trying to do a permadeath Dark Souls run.
Yeah, that
would be Kaizo. Okay, I have a friend that I have a streamer friend that I know that does this, so now I'm aware. Thank you.
Yeah, it originated with Mario, but I think it's been expanded to include a lot of other just obscene challenges.
I feel like it's just kind of become a word that means something now instead of it
specifically
just being specifically related to Mario challenges. Because now it's just anything that's ridiculously hard. I love that. I love how language changes and updates through the times. I find that fascinating. Which is, all these micro labels are exactly that.
Yeah, and Duke mentioned something here that's quite interesting. That for they heard Duke mention that I've heard from 2 aces that
Yeah, I was
experience
looking at that.
ego and lithosexual together. And
I had to look up a. Are we? Is
aegosexuality.
it a ego? I
Yeah,
wanted
so
to say
I see it as
ego.
ego. Some people just call it ego.
Mm, that's what my brain did.
But yeah,
Ego.
I see it as ego. So, a detachment of the self, essentially.
That makes sense. That makes sense because I did have to look this up. Individuals who experience sexual arousal but do not desire to engage in sexual activity with another person. So,
Mhm.
assuming that this, your ego definition kind of comes with the if I was egosexual, I'm trying to define this in putting myself in their shoes, right? If I was egosexual, then maybe I experienced sexual arousal but only wanted to masturbate instead of have sexual activity with another person.
Mhm.
And that could potentially come across as narcissistic.
Mhm.
So a ego. Because narcissistic personalities are very egotistical, right?
Yeah. And
And just
unfortunately,
connecting dots in my head.
yeah, and
I don't know if it is
unfortunately,
like that or not.
egosexuality is often pathologized as some sort of disorder.
Narcissism,
Yeah. So it's
narcissistic tendency disorders.
it's
Yeah.
medically and psychologically pathologized. And originally it was used in the context of some sort of pathological sexual response. But,
Right.
people have adopted this term egosexuality to describe their experience and move it away from this disgusting pathologization.
Right. I would love to hear more about egosexuality from someone that was more familiar.
Yeah.
Do we have anybody in the chat? Other than I know we said that streamer Shujo. Is there anybody else in the chat maybe? Ego waffles. Ego makes the most sense. Yeah, honestly, when I logicked it out, ego makes a lot of sense, but I'm just
Mhm.
not sure if that is the feeling or
Yeah.
not. But maybe my autism is why I want to know that feeling. I'm so curious now. But
I
if
think
we don't,
there's a
it's
number of
okay.
related experiences that sort of fall under
Yeah.
egosexuality. So I don't think
Yeah,
there's
what
one
you got?
experience that, as you said, for some people, they may feel sexual attraction and or masturbate, but it's through a lens that's very detached from themselves, and
Okay.
they sort of see it as being very much outside the picture, if you will.
Uh-huh.
So very much,
Like maybe a dissociation.
yeah, in some ways almost
Like
dissociated
during.
from the.
Yeah.
I've also heard other experiences that I haven't quite pinned down, but that's, I think, a very common way of describing it.
Interesting. Because I experienced dissociation in other in my mental health, so I can definitely see how that could be something that people
Hmm.
experience. It's very interesting. Yes, I'm AAA. It's me. Asexual, ADHD, autistic.
I can add an
Yep.
extra A into there.
Oh God, what
Ace,
is it?
arrow, ADHD, autistic.
Oh yeah, you're
Quadruple A.
you're quadruple A.
Not quite quintuple A. I'm not agender. I fall under the non-binary umbrella, but I'm not agender.
You could have another. Now I feel like we need to find the quintuple A.
I know one.
They exist.
I
They
know one.
exist.
I know one.
That's great.
So another label here that's in many ways the opposite of the demi experience would be phrasexual. And so phrasexual folks may experience, fleeting sexual attraction initially, but unlike demi folks where the sexual attraction forms as an emotional bond forms, for phrasexuals, they actually lose the sexual attraction as that emotional bond forms. So it's like the anti-demisexual, if you will.
I was thinking about this one because this one used to resonate with me. And I thought that it might have been a form of protection for myself because as you create that emotional bond, that person has more power to hurt you. And it feels real awful to say that because this does not relate to my current partner at all. This is something that I used to feel. And I feel very, very proud of myself that I was able to heal past it.
Absolutely.
But I feel like it was for me a form of protection because as you get closer to people, as they start to become closer to you, having sex with someone is really can't think of the word. It makes you vulnerable. And like literally, like you're taking your clothes off, at least some of them, to do any sort of sexual act, right? So like to me that is clothes are also like a form of protection.
Absolutely.
As well. So it's just interesting to think about this afterwards because I hadn't heard of this term before, but it does resonate with me because I used to feel like this. And like the sexual attraction as well, like the phrase sexual, it may not necessarily, or like you may feel this attraction, but not, it may be a different kind of attraction.
Yeah.
And still be phrase sexual.
Absolutely.
Like the aesthetic attraction. Like they're really pretty but dumb. And
Yeah,
so
I
maybe
can
they're not as
definitely see that.
attractive. Maybe that's just like a small selection of things that may happen, but potentially a phrase sexual is just could be like afraid of that connection with someone, that they have trauma around others there. Like a lot of these micro labels, we create them, and because there's different, God, I can't talk that we have these micro labels to explain things that don't feel like they're easy to explain, right? And going through mental health struggles and going through trauma, going through all of that, is also going to affect our sexuality.
Absolutely.
Trauma so heavily affects sexuality, especially sexual trauma, or even childhood trauma. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I definitely felt phrase sexual at some point in my life, but I feel very, very happy in that I think I've healed from what was making me feel phrase sexual.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that's the case.
For me, it was.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least.
Yeah, and
Not for everybody.
No, I'm not saying it is for everyone.
Yeah. I felt the need to clarify that for the chat. Yeah.
That's why it's so important to talk about asexuality and aromanticism through this, intersectional lens, because
Mhm.
no one experience is going to be the same, because there's so many other aspects of our lived experience that influence how we experience attraction and how we experience
Mhm.
life. And yeah, Duke mentioned that there's another micro label. Is it Cade sexuality is one that's reserved for folks that have experienced terrible sexual trauma, and it's
Mm.
as a result have experience no sexual attraction, or are ace as a result.
It may not need to be sexual trauma. Correct me
No,
if I'm wrong,
I think it is any
but
trauma.
yeah, I feel like something completely non-sexual related, like just
Yeah,
like maybe somebody got in a car accident, so
yeah,
they're struggling to trust other people because they were a passenger in that car. And so trust is so necessary for some people to engage in sexual activities. And
yeah.
like me, I'm one of them. I
Hmm.
need to trust the person that
Hmm.
I may or may not want to have sex with before I have sex with them.
So
And
valid.
that's so it's such a vague feeling too, because
Yeah.
it like I could feel trusting of them, but I don't I still don't want to have sex with them. So there's other things there as well.
Yeah, you're right. So, it can be any sort of form of trauma.
Mhm.
So I just grabbed a brief definition here.
For Cade.
Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, it's any
Ooh,
sort of
taken or cut
trauma.
away. Interesting. Yeah, I feel that. I have that one.
Hmm.
I definitely think that one has a bit of me in it. I'm in a bit of that. But I don't think that I was ever allosexual. I just had to figure out what I was
Yeah,
because I didn't know what I was. I
absolutely.
thought I was supposed to be allosexual.
Many folks thought they were supposed to be allosexual because you're
Yes.
told from the time you're like
Yes.
a small child that you will be, that
The
you're
white picket
expected to
fence,
be.
the 2.5 kids.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want any of that,
No,
but that's okay.
exactly. I
I'll have
certainly
2.5
don't.
cats instead.
That's a
I'm
mood.
not sure where the half cat's coming from, but 2 tripods makes a 1.5 cat. Oh, I figured it out. Goals. 2.5 cats. No, not really. Anyway. Cade sexual. What an interesting one.
So on the topic of 2.5 cats,
Oh my
somebody
gosh.
I saw somebody wearing this t-shirt that read MILF, man, I love felines, and I literally fell on the floor laughing. And it's basically this idea that, yeah, I'm a cat lady.
Yeah. I'm also a MILF. Man, I love cats.
It was
Felines.
such an awesome
Milk.
t-shirt.
Oh my god, I'm also milk. Man, I love cats. And regular milk. Man, I love kittens.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Oh my god. All three of them, one shirt, and then just a bunch of cats.
Yeah,
Let's make it. Who wants to start a shirt company
absolutely.
with me? Oh wait, this is an idea for Tony's sticker company that he wants to make. He wants to like design and sell stickers, but like work with artists and get
Yeah,
their art out there. And isn't like really sure how to start it, but this one,
yeah, there you
man,
go.
I love V-Lines.
Mm-hmm.
Milk sticker. It's just okay. So I see it now. MILF, like big, and then just like within it, but small. It says man, and then under the I. Then the I is fine, and then on the L is like love,
Yeah,
and then F, and then somewhere in the F is feline. Print it.
yeah,
Write it down.
you got it.
Anyways, on the term of MILFs. No. What's next? We already talked about.
So we talked about phrase sexuality. I do want to acknowledge what Duke said here. Duke mentioned I never felt broken as an asexual person, but definitely felt alienation quite a bit when I was younger. And being ace was one aspect of it, always feeling othered or so different. And,
Yeah.
I think that arises because of this compulsory sexuality around us. But not only that, the fact that, you feel so isolated and invisible compared to everybody else. And so that's so, so valid. How do you find another ace person in the wild is like a common refrain I hear from so many folks I talk to.
Here. This is where you find them. Here.
Exactly. But it is so hard to find, ace community generally because it's not like, how do you find somebody that has little to no sexual attraction? They're not easily found unless you be like, hey, I'm ace.
You have to bring it up.
Exactly.
Like, people don't really talk about it all the time.
Exactly.
Either,
it's not something that's immediately obvious.
I see it's your first 2 tags on Twitch. I don't remember which ones it is for me.
Yeah.
On mine, but it's definitely on mine as well.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. But otherwise, it's very difficult to find aces in the wild.
I'm glad that you never felt broken. But I think maybe it's just framing it differently. Like, I framed it as feeling broken and being alienated. Though I think I was probably putting myself into situations that allosexuals believed that asexuals shouldn't be in. And I was just in them because I thought they were fun. So maybe that's the tism talking. Who knows? I hadn't, figured that out yet at that time.
That's valid. And I think for me, the neurodivergence very much plays into both, my aromanticism and asexuality. So I don't think you can separate the neurodivergence from those, for me at least. I know that's not the case for everyone, but for me, I think they're very much related.
That's fair. I agree. For me, they're so related that, when I could relate it in such a way that, my autism doesn't really like having sex. So when I feel like my autism is in the forefront of my mind, and it's affecting me more than the other comorbidities are, I don't ever want to have sex. I'm asexual. Hard and fast. So that's an interesting thought. But it's not always in the front, as I like to think. It's not the lead dog in my metaphorical mental health sled dog team. Sometimes ADHD is in the front, or maybe something else is in the front. Maybe I'm in a certain mood that's created by, I can't think of an example right now, but it's really, really affected by my mental, like, so directly affected. And it's not just, oh, I have a headache, I don't want to have sex. That stereotype is so hurtful.
Absolutely.
The media.
Media is so problematic when it comes to...
It is so problematic.
Representation of asexuality and aromanticism, and we've gone into it quite a bit of detail in, past episodes, just how problematic
we don't have to go into it. But just the media.
Yeah.
That's enough.
Exactly. So there's a couple more micro labels I want to mention, and one of them is
Yeah.
sort of the opposite of achio or lithosexual. And this is, folks that identify as reciprosexual. So folks who are reciprosexual may only feel sexual attraction once they are aware that somebody else experiences sexual attraction towards them. Otherwise, they don't feel it. So it's almost
I feel
the
like this one
opposite.
is another protection,
Yeah.
kind of. It can be.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for those with trauma around unreciprocated feelings that they've experienced some sort of trauma, and that in that sense may absolutely turn towards reciprosexual. Gosh, that's a mouthful. Reciprosexual.
Absolutely.
I did
Totally
it.
can see that. For sure.
Mm-hmm. That's really all I had to say on that one, unfortunately.
No, I mean, that's completely valid. And I don't have any great deal of knowledge with any one of these micro labels. I'm just bringing them
fair.
up to kind of give a sense of some of the experiences that may fall under the gray umbrella, just to talk about the fact that, hey, there's so many different experiences that fall under asexuality.
And honestly, like, I think I probably have experienced that one too. It's just I'm not thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
The memory is not coming out like
Yeah.
some of the other ones were, which is totally okay.
Mm-hmm.
What else we got on here? We talked about Demi.
We talked about phrasexual, and then very much the opposite is demisexuality, which I want to talk about in a little bit more detail. So folks that are demi do not feel sexual attraction until a strong emotional bond is formed. And in episode 6, we chatted a lot about demisexuality. And for some folks who are demi, it's not really necessarily a true sexual attraction. It's some people have said that they feel okay having sex with somebody they have a strong emotional bond with, but they may not necessarily feel sexual attraction in the same way that an allo person does. So,
exactly.
It's not just simply choosing not to have sex until you're in a relationship. That's not at all what it is.
It's literally not feeling a sexual attraction at all. Or when you do feel a sexual attraction, it is not the same as what an allosexual may feel. Yeah. But it only comes when that emotional bond is formed. And I absolutely have concreted demisexuality in as one of I come back to this, all the labels in the Ace Flex bag, whatever. The party in the Ace Flex bag of all the labels I'm collecting. And demisexuality is a big one. That one is at the top. But when I'm not in the mood or I'm not feeling sexy, if I'm not feeling sexy, I don't want anyone else to think that I'm sexy. No, that's not right. I don't want to be perceived as sexy. That's correct. And so, but with my partner, who I do have a strong emotional bond with, it's fine when they do. And if we are having sex, it's not the same as how I see it portrayed in the media, which means not a lot, but it isn't the same as what I've heard from other experiences. Because a lot of times sex, for me, the demisexual side of me, it's like when I get close to somebody and they want to have sex, if I'm feeling down, yeah. But if I'm not, no. I need to be like into it. And how do we get into it? That's another story for another day. But I need to be did you see this piece of media? I believe it was a blog post or something, but it was the concept of fuck yes, or I like to say fuck no.
No, I haven't seen that.
It's either fuck yes, we're having sex, or honestly, for me, consent is very, very huge in all
Absolutely.
parts of my life. All of it.
Absolutely.
It's either fuck yes, we're doing this thing, we're having sex, fuck yes, we're going on a road trip, fuck yes, we're starting a relationship, fuck yes, we're watching a movie. Fuck yes.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck yes, or it's not happening.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I've kind of like I saw that so many years ago, and it became a way I lived my life. If it was not fuck yes, then I was not clear on what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which can be troublesome when you're trying to pick out what restaurant to go to or what movie to watch. So maybe I should work on that.
So
I should definitely work on that. I didn't think about it like that before, but man, maybe that's where my crazy indecisive comes from. Fuck yes.
Or fuck no.
Or fuck no. It's fuck yes, or figure out how to make it fuck yes, or find something that is fuck yes. Like maybe in sexual situations, maybe I don't want to have PIV sex.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a person with a P and I have a V.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't want to have PIV sex, but maybe I do want to insert thing here.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I don't want to do, whatever. There's so many options.
Absolutely.
And like that is a big part of my demisexual, the demisexuality, I think, as well. Like it's just very, I mean my asexuality, it just feels different. It's divergent. Divergent should be the name of today's episode.
Hey, that's
apparently
so valid.
it's my keyword today. It's my buzzword. Buzzword's the right. There we go. It's the buzzword.
I think you bring up a really good point. You know, Sharonda J. Brown describes asexuality as folks that experience or have a relationship with sex that is different or divergent from those who are allosexual. So I think that's a very good term to use. So, it's not just limited or no sexual attraction. I think there's a whole other,
we feel
element
attraction differently.
Exactly. Attraction is felt differently.
And like this doesn't even include how people are sexually different.
Mm-hmm.
And have different preferences within their sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what if we were gonna go into the actual, like, orgasming from sex? People orgasm differently. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can orgasm the same way. So it's just, everybody's different.
Yeah.
Just had to say it again. Don't change the terms hot or sexy, except the former is for other contexts. Like, I don't use the term sexy either.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I didn't think of it that way, but I suppose if I am attracted to something, it's not usually or ever that I want to have sex with it. And sexy to me means sexy is something if something is sexy, I want to have sex with it. And I don't.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Absolutely.
I mean, I suppose I call my partner sexy. Well, that's semantics.
Mm-hmm.
At that point. I'm just arguing semantics. But that's my experience with the term. I do use hot because even though I don't experience it the same way, I do know that others do, and I make a lot of off-color jokes because I find off-color jokes to be funny, and I can joke about it, and not feel it. That's totally fine.
As Mabes mentioned in one of the earlier episodes, asexuals can have some of the most sexual
dirtiest
jokes of anybody.
Oh, yes. Just because we have a dirty mind and make jokes like 12-year-old boys doesn't mean that we want to do all the things
Exactly.
that the 12-year-old boys are doing.
Exactly.
Because, for example, American Pie. I don't have a dick, but if I did, I don't think I'd want to put it in a pie.
No, definitely not.
But, I don't know. I feel like I might have to have a dick to understand that. That's just something that I can never understand.
No.
In the same way that an AMAB would. Or someone born with a... Anyways. I'm getting into semantics again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that might be all of our...
Yeah, I mean, we've
micro
covered
labels, unless we
basically-
wanted to bring up any others.
Oh, I was just going to briefly mention, we've talked a lot about, the ACE umbrella. There's very much a...
These are merch ideas.
Yeah, there is
The gray...
very...
I need a gray umbrella now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I could put, like, GRAYCE, Grace.
Hell
I'm
yes.
thinking.
I would love that.
Sell that.
Yeah.
I just need someone to help me start a company, and we're gonna make so much money. We're gonna sell the MILF stuff, and we'll sell the Grace umbrellas.
Hell yeah, I would buy that so hard.
I keep asking friends that also are idea people. I was like, how do you start a company? How do you start a company? I think maybe I'll talk about it for a little bit more before I actually do it, because I need that person. I don't know who that person is, but it's like I need that person to start the company, and I'm there, and I'm a co-owner.
Duke mentioned I need to hear Ace folks' takes on sex jokes someday.
Ooh, I got a good one. You want to hear a dirty joke? Or no?
Yeah, go for it.
We start with the clean joke. It goes, do you want to hear a clean joke? I took a bath with Bubbles. Do you want to hear a dirty joke? Bubbles is the girl next door. Trying to think of another sex joke. I don't know. Of course, brain blank when trying to come up with something witty or funny.
Tabor wheezed at that one.
That's an old one. I've known that one for a while.
I have not heard that one, believe it or not.
There's more to it. Hold on. I maybe the internet knows.
I'm sure the internet does know.
Oh wait. I have a whole list of jokes. I wonder if any of these are sex jokes. Oh yeah. You hear about the guy who dipped his testicles in glitters? Pretty nuts.
That's a
pretty
mood.
nuts.
That's a mood.
None of these are sex jokes. I mean, I have a bunch of cow jokes. I have a bunch of elephant jokes. Oh, this one is like making a joke about genitals. That's a good one. Here. Okay. So what do you call a deer with no eyes? Sorry, I had to start it. What do you call a deer with no eyes?
Wouldn't have a clue.
No idea. What do you call a deer with no eyes and no legs? Still no idea. What do you call a deer with no eyes, no legs, and no genitals? Still no fucking idea. from ace people. Yeah, same Caber. Because it's like we have no skin in the game.
Exactly.
So we can make the most raunchy jokes, and there's no one there to be like, why don't you put your money where your mouth is?
Exactly.
Because, no.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we make the most ridiculous jokes.
Exactly.
That's my thought. All right.
So I think we've covered pretty much
We have.
everything. I do want to quickly note that, I know we talked a lot about, the ACE spectrum today. I do want to note that there's a lot of parallel terms
Well,
for
why don't we go into
aromanticism as
some of
well.
them?
So,
Why don't we just go through some of them? Because
you
I
can,
don't have the experience, but you've been. I'm fascinated by them.
I mean, there's another term, demi-romanticism, which is very much a parallel term to
Right.
demisexuality. So you do not experience romantic attraction until a close emotional bond with someone is developed. There's no romantic attraction unless you've got a close emotional bond. There's
So would those say a person that is demi-romantic, forms that close emotional bond, would they then potentially want a romantic relationship with that person?
I think it probably
But
depends
not
on
sexual.
the demi person. Yeah. I mean,
Okay. Interesting.
but that's, yeah, I guess, yeah, I think, by definition, you're only potentially going to feel that romantic attraction if a close emotional bond exists, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because you have a close emotional bond with someone that you will experience it.
Yes, and I definitely have that. I know how that feels on the demisexual side, because I had I guess in my until I turned, well, anyway, I didn't have very many long-term relationships. One of my longest relationships was in that period of, was it free sexuality? No. When I was dating 3 people that I was talking about earlier. I can't remember which one it was. But I dated somebody for about 6 months and we never had sex. And something that he said after we broke up was that, oh wow, we never had sex. Like, God, I'm so glad we didn't now. Or like, I thought that. I was glad we didn't, because at the end he was like, damn, all that and we never even had sex. So that made me feel bad, because I never felt that attraction to him.
No.
Why? But I didn't.
No, just
And
because
so we
you have a
didn't,
close
because fuck
emotional
yeah or
bond
fuck no.
doesn't mean you will.
Yeah, exactly. And in my current relationship, we thought maybe we wouldn't. Maybe it would be a non-sexual relationship, because our relationship isn't based on sex.
No.
Because I am asexual. I am on the ace spectrum. I carry that gray umbrella around with me everywhere. And that's just how I am.
Absolutely.
And that's fine. And he's supportive of that, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's the best I could ever ask for.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I feel like we've beat demisexuality over the head so hard now that
Hopefully.
potentially we skip the experiences part, because we've already talked about it.
Yeah. And
something that I did write down that I wanted to mention. So demis can go a long period of time between sexual or romantic feelings without missing it, since they do not feel these feelings without an emotional bond. Since this is necessary, those feelings are not felt when an emotional bond is absent from their lives. So it's demisexuals and demi-romantics, where the act that demi-romantics may be having maybe having or not having is maybe like being in relationships or not. And for demisexuals, it's maybe having sex or not, or
Mhm.
not.
Yeah.
That's just kind of how I try to categorize a
Yeah.
little bit.
And there's an analogous term, gray romantic.
Mm.
That's kind of like the gray ace of the arrow world, where you have limited or weak romantic attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of the terms you just replace sexual with romantic, and a lot of them can apply.
You're making me think about things, and I'm wondering.
You're not the
Yeah.
first person to say this on the podcast. I've had a couple people say that they've started to realize that they could be under the aerospec umbrella.
Wait, what is cupiosexual? Hold on, I missed something.
It's the idea that
I've
you would
missed
like to
chat.
be. So cupiosexual is somebody that would like to experience sexual attraction but just doesn't.
Ah.
And cupiromantic is somebody that would like to experience romantic attraction. I believe that's my understanding.
Interesting. I wonder if that goes hand in hand with demi and not necessarily being in or not having that emotional bond.
Perhaps.
Curious.
I think, you don't necessarily know if that you're demi unless, you
Right.
come to
Until you've
experience
had
that.
emotional bond
Yeah.
and experienced it. Right.
So, I think a lot of these terms could exist at different times for
Yeah.
these folks as they come to better understand themselves.
Yeah,
for
maybe
sure.
Cupio and then demi. Maybe not at the same
And
time.
for some people, they may be Cupio their whole lives.
Right. True. Interesting.
For me, a term I like to use is what the
Oh my
fuck
God,
romantic.
Duke just made an addition to my umbrella idea. When it gets wet, it turns rainbow. Yes.
Hell yes.
Yes.
Hell yes.
Gray. It's a gray umbrella, and when it gets wet, oh my God, I could
That's
sell these in
amazing.
Seattle.
Hell yeah. I love that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That is someone who wants to
it's
be in
someone who
sexual
wants to
relationship
be.
with Yeah.
Yeah, I think it also can apply to wanting to experience those feelings as well.
Interesting. Yeah. Or like wanting to know what it feels like
Yeah.
to experience them. Like
Yeah.
maybe you've seen people experience it in the media, but you haven't felt it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So that would be sex or romantic favorable, absolutely.
Mhm.
One term that I like to use, with regards to my arrow experience is the what the fuck or qua romantic. In that I'm not really sure what romantic attraction is or whether I experience it. And there's also quasexual, which is you don't know if you experience sexual attraction or not.
Right.
But I think very much my arrow kind of experience is what the fuck is romantic attraction.
I think that I'm probably very close to the sex favorable ace.
Yeah.
But it's like with my mental health, it sort of like changes. And so there are times where I'm a sex favorable ace, and there are times where I'm much more demi.
Mm-hmm.
Or some of the other ones that I don't think we talked about. There are some other other sexualities that fall more under allo, I think, where it just describes like how people want to have sex, and some of the side ones that I really don't hear about very often. Sometimes I hear about them and I'm like, oh wait, that's me, but I can't remember what any of them are right now because it's like situational sexuality or something, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cubiosexual, I gotta write this one down too.
So Duke brought up a very good point in that, we've got this term sex favorability and sex positivity, and the two are often misunderstood and conflated, but they're different ideas. Sex favorability is your own relationship to sex. Are
Mhm.
you favorable to it or not? Sex positivity is more of a theoretical construct. Are you
Oh,
are you uh, do you believe that, people who consensually are willing to should be able to have sex or not?
right,
That's sex positivity.
right. Yeah, then I feel both.
Yeah, I would say I'm
'Cause
both as well.
yeah, touch favorable. Yeah.
Definitely.
Wait, how are you sex averse and sex neutral? Don't those conflict?
Sex neutral is on the positivity side of things.
Oh, okay. 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 Got it. Got it. Got it.
If you go
All
back to
right.
episode 1, I have a little kind of clip that talks about sex favorability and sex positivity because they are
I'll
very
have to take a
commonly
look.
misunderstood and conflated.
Yeah, I definitely do that and just did. My outlook on society. Very nice.
So I think we've talked about everything I wanted to. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Um, I wanted to bring up, so like you were in your 30s before you
Mm-hmm.
realized. I mentioned the year, but I was 23.
Mm-hmm.
That was the year where I found the word asexual.
Mm-hmm.
It was introduced
Mm-hmm.
to me. Um, and so it definitely, I already talked about this, but it was definitely like a band-aid and
Yeah.
protection for myself in like the party, dating, drinking scene in my that I was in my 20s.
Mm-hmm.
That, nowadays, me and my best friend who was there through all of it, they and I talk about the good old days of how we don't drink anymore. And our 20s were almost entirely fueled by alcohol. And that is how we got into most of the sexual situations that we were in, given they are not asexual. So, a part of the situations that I was in
Mm-hmm.
was watching them and seeing how much fun they're having
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to have something.
Yeah.
So, potentially that was sexuality. But, I ended up hurting myself in some of that and then having to recover from it. A lot of the situations that I mentioned before of
Mm-hmm.
the weaponizing the terminology
Yeah.
against us is
Absolutely.
from that time.
Absolutely. It's far too common, unfortunately.
Yeah, the projected sex, how sex sells, all of that. I was actually really angry about that for a long time. And I'm not angry anymore in the same way that I'm no longer angry at my mother for my trauma of growing up undiagnosed. So maybe you can heal too, Duke. Maybe someday. I believe. I never wrote down the definition of QPO. Trying to experience. Correct. Cool. 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 Cool.
Yeah, so I guess technically does not experience sexual desire, but still wants a sexual relationship. I've also seen
Yeah.
it described as desiring sexual to want to have sexual attraction, but I think that's the more common definition.
Mm-hmm.
And then Cupid romantic would be does not experience romantic attraction, but still wants a romantic relationship.
Right.
So yeah, you can just insert, remove sexual and put romantic, and a lot of
Right.
these terms apply on the arrow side too.
I love it. It's sometimes you need like that example, that personal example to understand what it means.
Mhm.
So, because like I said, I'm now thinking about things because you're talking about your experiences,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't consider it
Mm-hmm.
before. So, oh, that. Hmm. Hmm. Unfortunate. I don't have any advice there. That feels bad.
Feels bad. And
One thing that I did add at the very bottom of my thing, I'm just gonna throw it in chat. Does it have all the colors? Yeah, that's perfect. Bam. That was at the bottom of my copy of our questions. That was anything you'd like to add? That's what I wanted to add.
so fucking true. Not
And
all
I put hearts in it
relationships
and
have to
everything.
be romantic. There's so many as well. There's so many ways that one can be in a relationship.
Exactly.
We're platonic partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
Platonic relationships are fucking valid, and not all of them
Roommates?
have to meet the escalator that society tells us we have to be
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, and like you could have a roommate that is a
Mhm.
meaningful relationship,
Mhm.
and it's just what other people would consider a roommate.
Mhm.
But it could also be the stereotypical, Aunt Sally has her roommate Brenda,
Boston Marriage.
right. And they're not, and they're lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing the gay sex with each other, most likely. And it's like, the joke is that they're just roommates, but they're not. But you can do that
Yeah.
with a roommate. You can have lovely relationships that are not romantic or sexual in any
Exactly.
way with
I know several
roommates.
folks. I know
Yes.
several folks in
I've done it.
QPPs that are roommates.
One of my best friends is an old roommate, and they are the reason that I have a cat now. So thank you, Renee, because I love my cat. There she
Mhm.
is. You might be able to see her if I turn a little. She's on the. I have to wait. I'm looking at the wrong cam. I have lag. Well, that's in the way. Whatever. Now you can see her. That way? Whatever. Anyways, cat. There's a cat over there. Yeah, you can see her. I'm looking at my stream instead of tabbing out or tabbing over to where my cam is. It's great. It's fine. Hugs me feel so magical. Yes. So there's
They
the
do.
other thing about compression for neurodivergence. Neurodivergence love compression. Some neurodivergence love compression.
Mhm.
Compression therapy, heavy blankets, having a cat sit on your lap, having a friend or partner sit on your lap, having a heavy plushie, burying yourself underneath a bunch of blankets. Oh, I forgot dogs sitting on your lap. I'm equal opportunity pet haver.
Who's that
Things
Pokemon?
sitting on your lap.
Pikachu!
It's nice.
It's
And hugs are
Clefairy!
because you squeeze. Oh
and
my gosh,
Duke
Duke.
gifting to Emmy, another Fruity
I was
Stream
like, I
Team
can't-
member.
I don't know what this says. Emmy Injeru.
Yeah, another Fruity Stream Team member.
Nice. Nice. All the
Thank
sub
you so
love.
much, Duke. You are far too kind. Unfortunately, we do have an ad break coming up in
Oh
1 minute, and I
no.
cannot snooze this one, I don't think.
Well, since we've reached the end of our list of topics,
Yeah, why don't
what
we...
were we talking about
We
doing?
were kind of just wrapping up on,
Yeah.
A-spec folks can have meaningful relationships that don't have to be sexual and or romantic.
Mm-hmm. Platonic relationships are valid.
They are fucking valid.
So valid. And, something else that I do as a neurodivergent is personify inanimate objects or pets.
Mm-hmm.
You don't no sexual feeling toward pets,
No.
but pets can fill an
emotional bond.
Yes, they can fill an emotional bond aesthetically as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel aesthetic attraction a lot, but it's also like aesthetically pleasing cute things.
Yeah,
Cute
absolutely.
things make me happy.
Absolutely.
Cute things make me so happy. And my cat's fucking cute.
Mm-hmm.
So she makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Am I aesthetically attracted to her? Maybe not in the same way that I'd be
No.
aesthetically attracted to a human.
Of course.
But yes, she's cute as shit.
Yeah.
And so's that dog that I saw on our walk this morning. He was really freaking cute. You're welcome. We did it.
I'm so glad that it was informative and that
We're gray AF.
Absolutely.
And now we need to make gray merch.
Of course.
Maybe instead of Grace, it should just say like gray AF.
Hell yeah.
Gray
Hell yeah.
AF. And then rain and rainbow. Oh my gosh, what if it had like some sort of prism and then it would cast rainbows
Of course.
on the floor,
it has to have,
on the ground or walls
rainbows.
or something. Extra rainbows.
Exactly.
So attracted to cute things and people. Yes. See? Now aesthetic attraction makes sense. I'm so happy for you. Oh, they can see us. Okay. Or Duke can hear me. So
yes,
they didn't.
Duke can.
Very
Absolutely.
good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Well,
sorry we ended on an ad break. Nothing I can do about it.
That's all right.
Team EL is the other stream team I'm a part of, and they are very much, as you can guess, focused on Pokemon. And so Team EL is the, quote, so-and-so bad team of Gen 8, so Sword and Shield. And so that's where that name comes from.
OMG. I love your neurodivergent friendly space art thing. That's perfect.
I like to use the term friendly because I don't want to tell anybody that it's a safe space. Because I don't get to choose that. Somebody else gets to choose that.
When I was applying for Fruities, that's a big thing on their application is that you can't control all of the factors, so it can't be a safe space.
No.
But I like the term friendly space because I wanted to use the term safe space, or like I attempt to make it a safe space.
Yeah, but you can't decide that because there's so many intersectional experiences.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I know you're right. You're right. But it's not. I guess I currently in my head with my like about section, I'm currently going through some updates, and I don't know what I want it to look like yet. I like yours.
I borrowed that
I
from
may
the
be
Fruities.
a thief. Yeah, I may go look at theirs again. Aromatic subculture have things like Ace Community has the cake and garlic bread. Huh? Wait, I'm not familiar with these.
No, so we actually talked about that in episode 3. There is no like quintessential arrow meme. You know, ace
Can you explain
culture.
the ace, the cake and garlic bread memes?
I mean, most of them sort of are along the lines of X is better than sex, and that's where they developed. It's like, if you're ace,
Cake
you'd
is better
rather
than
have
sex.
garlic bread than
Garlic
have
bread is better
sex.
than sex. Yes,
And,
I love it.
cake kind of has a similar connotation. Avon,
You can
however,
have your
kind
cake
of,
and eat it too as well. That
yeah,
meme.
Avon took it in, and now, when you join Avon, you are presented with a metaphorical slice of cake, and that's where that's kind of, it's got a dual
Aw.
meaning. So both welcome you into the ace space, but it also has kind of that same X is better than sex.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, most of the ace memes are X is better than sex.
Right.
There's
I think it'd
not
be
really the same
better.
subculture for aromanticism. And we talked about that a lot in the first and third episode. Where is the quintessential arrow meme? I haven't found one.
What are we trying to? I mean, if we come at it from a different headspace, maybe we can logic something.
I don't know. I mean, I don't just want to say X is better than romance, because that doesn't
Right.
really.
So what are we trying to say?
I don't know. That's the thing. There's not really any kind of quintessential meme that's ever kind of really jumped to the mainstream. There's lots of like, one-off memes I've seen, but there's nothing that's really caught on.
I gotta think about this now. Because now I want to come up with the meme. If there isn't one, we need one.
Sometimes I go peruse the Arocalypse Discord.
What is that?
So it's essentially like the equivalent of the Avon server for Arrow folks.
Mm-hmm. And they have some good stuff in there
So they
sometimes.
sometimes have some funny memes in there, but
That's
nothing really kind of like mainstream, just, one-offs.
great. Well, maybe the first step is we think about what we want to say with this meme.
Hmm.
And then we can try to come up with a way to put it in a meme.
And I think what a lot of Arrow folks want to be careful of is the fact that we don't want to come across as just being antisocial.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think there's that aspect too, that, you gotta kind of want to walk a little bit of a careful line there.
Yeah. And ace folk are more like, haha, we don't like sex. Get wrecked.
Yeah.
So it's definitely has a kind of a different feeling behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I agree there. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah,
a
it's
good
something
question.
I've questioned for a while, and I've never really been able to come up with a great answer.
Well, hopefully some very smart slash punny memer on the internet will come up with something soon.
Yeah,
That's my
nothing's
hope.
caught on that I know of, at least.
Right.
It's been so much fun chatting with you today. I'm so glad you could join.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that Ren got sick.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate.
You'll have to get them in sometime.
Yeah, we were supposed to be joined by Ren, but they're feeling under the weather, so they couldn't make it today. But there's plenty of, opportunities again in the future. So yeah, I'd love to have them on in the future.
Podcast up and running, yay!
Absolutely. It's been lovely to have this back up and running. I felt so dejected when I had to go on hiatus.
Aww.
I missed it so much.
Well, I'm personally so excited that I was finally able to actually come on, because I've watched a bunch of them, and I have so many experiences, most interesting and helpful to some, I hope.
Absolutely. And it's so important to get the, this wide
Mhm.
degree of, array of experiences because there is no one ace
Exactly.
experience. And that's
Exactly.
really what I want to highlight is not all aces are completely without any, sexual attraction, and they're not all sex averse, sex negative like the
Yeah.
media likes to portray.
Exactly.
That's why it's really important to talk about the gray umbrella and talk about some of
Exactly.
the other aspects of intersectionality.
We'll have to see. I wonder if there's now I feel the need to look up umbrella manufacturers. I don't think I've seen an umbrella that color changed before, but I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm taking out of this is creating a gray ace umbrella or a
Heck yeah, I would buy the fuck out of that.
gray AF, not gray ace.
I'd buy the fuck out of that.
Do we always use gray with an A for grace
I think it depends
and
on
gray
the
rom?
it depends on this, I think British way is I think with
Oh
is it
gosh, you spelled it with
E?
EY up
Yeah.
here, and I was spelling it with AY because that's how you spell grace. Well, what would we want to put on the?
So gray, Gray, is more the Americanized spelling. Gray with an
Right.
E is more the British spelling of it. So it just
I'll just
depends.
put both on here.
Yeah.
Gets wet and turns rainbow. Or maybe if it was just a prismy, like see-through, clear, or something. If it
Yeah.
was kind of a prism, then that's how you get your rainbow. But it's like a gray see-through. I don't know.
Yeah,
Design
I've
required.
definitely used both spellings interchangeably myself for sure. I've never really known which one I prefer, but I think I more commonly use the Grey.
EY.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I only say AY when I combine the word into grace.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because that's how you would usually spell the
Yeah,
name Grace
absolutely.
is ACE.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then ace
Hmm.
is shortened to asexuality is shortened to
Yeah.
ace a lot, so
Yeah.
that's ACE.
That
So
makes sense for sure.
I think I like the AY. Hey Google, stop. 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 Stop.
Shall we go on a raid?
Yes, let's do it.